We're back with the series. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, my name is Brittany Habib, and I'm taking you through my gymnastics journey, life as a Black gymnast here in Canada. At this point, we have just completed 2004, the year of the Olympics. My Olympic dreams have been snatched away from me. Top 10 athletes got to try out for the Olympics. I was denied. So now it's just time to move forward. I get back to the gym. I keep training, and as my coach said, who did not defend me, I have a lot of other things to work on. I went back into that gym, and then I just kept working. So now we're entering the 2005 season. Now, being a Black person in this world, along the way, we find one out of hundreds that see the talent, that understand how special you are, and really try to push for that. So the head coach at the time was this amazing Russian gentleman, and his name was Andrei. I cannot pronounce the last name. But he was very disappointed about what they did to me at the Nationals in 2004. Going into 2005 would have been my first ever international competition representing Canada. And obviously everybody had their ideas on who they wanted on this team, but Andre fought. He said, no, I want Brittany Habib to go to this competition. She's not going to compete on all four events. She's extremely strong on vault and on floor, and the team needs that, and we can use her. I was so nervous. I was so excited. There's all these different things happening inside of me, because I'm also going to be competing with the group of gymnasts who was actually on that Olympic team. So this was I'm one of the top, I think there's only 4 or 5 people on this team, and I got to be on the team with the Olympians. This is just unheard of. It was terrifying. It was exciting. It was you actually think I'm good enough to show numbers to be able to. It was just, anyways. So I ended up going to this competition. I think it was called the American Cup. I competed, my vault. I competed on floor. And I remember the first time ever in my life feeling like I was a part of a team. The teammates were cheering, they were screaming, they were, fighting for each other. And I remember myself feeling like I deserved to be there. And I remember just cheering and screaming and going, let's go Canada, like this. And then at the corner of my eye, I saw my coach, Yelena, just looking at me. And she was staring at me with the sense of I don't know, it seemed like embarrassment, and snickering at me. It was like the snicker, cheering for your team. She was looking at me. It was the way that she chuckled and the way that she laughed at me. When I had so much passion, really took me down. It really took me down 17 notches, making me question why I'm here. So it made me feel like they were allowed to cheer, but I wasn't really allowed to cheer that much because I really shouldn't be here. The effect that a coach has on an athlete is tremendous. And coaches really need to listen to this. Every facial expression you do, the body language you have, everything you do affects an athlete. And I'll never forget my first international competition and seeing my coach look at me, chuckle, and just have this way of looking at me. Whereas other coaches, are looking at their athletes with joy, with and cheering with them and feeling proud. There wasn't that sense from her. And I keep using this word distraction, and I'm gonna go back to it because my talent is getting stronger. I'm getting so much better. And now more competitions are coming up. So the time that she was supposed to have with her other younger white athletes was starting to get pushed away more and more because the more talented you are, the more competitions you're going to be going to. The more you need to represent your country internationally. And a big thing why they shooed me away from my Olympic dreams was there was this point system. And I hadn't had any points yet because I didn't compete internationally. So now, even though rules are going to be broken for me, we got to try our best to fill in every slot. Now it was imperative that I go to international competitions so I can have my points, accumulate all these points so that you can sit better on the national team. Now, a very important factor here. In order to be phenomenal, in order to be so good and have a good ranking for gymnastics, what you really need is money. Seriously, the more money you have, the better placement you're going to have on that team. Because the more international competitions that you pay for are the more points you get. The more points you get, the better sitting on that national team you have. Interesting, right? So it came to a point now where I needed to travel internationally, so they couldn't use, well, she has no points. We have to try our best. As a Black people, we have to fill our best to fill every slot. But we are always trying to find the best ways to make it work. So now it's time to get more money, because when we're traveling internationally, we're not just paying for ourselves. We have to pay for the coach, the coach's flight, the coach's room, everything. We're paying for everything on top of me, the competition, all these things. So in order to get these, we need to have more money. I remember my father really coming up with this brilliant idea, do a fundraiser for me to help raise money to allow me to do all these beautiful big competitions and to have me represent Canada. And we had this beautiful support within our community that made this work. Like this fundraising event was phenomenal. We raised some good money, we had some beautiful turnouts, and it allowed me to compete internationally, because most coaches are so proud to have a national senior high performance athlete in their club. Like that is something that is a really admirable thing. But it wasn't for my coach, and she didn't feel that way, which weighed very heavily on me. We are starting to have me travel internationally. I remember there was a couple of competitions that came up, one in Luxembourg and one in Slovenia, probably within that same year of 2005. Within a span of 3 years, I traveled to 9 countries. So when we talk about point system, Brittany had them, because not only was I going there and just competing, I was making event finals, I was medaling, and I even won. I remember coming first overall at a competition in Ukraine on the floor exercise. So not only was I just showing up, I was winning some of those competitions, medaling, representing my country at such a beautiful competition. So when we're talking about point system, I had it. That couldn't be denied anymore. So any competition that was coming up where I was in the running and they wanted to try to take me off, they couldn't, because I had such high points at this point. So I remember Luxembourg and Slovenia. And when I was heading to Luxembourg, which was one of my other very first large international competitions, I remember Elena telling me that she's not going to be coming with me. I couldn't understand it. The head coach is not going to be coming on this international competition with an athlete representing her country. I didn't know how to swallow that. She wasn't going to come. So I said, so am I, like, do I go by myself? I've never heard of this before, because I've never in my life heard of any other coach sending an athlete without the head coach. She said that she was going to be sending Valery. That's the man coach who is always had my back and believed in me. She said I'll be sending him because I'm going to be staying back with obviously her favorite athletes. And that stuck with me forever, that she did not want to come on one of my first international competitions with me and was sending the assistant coach with me. I never quite knew how to swallow this. And it has affected me on so many different levels. Again, this is where actions speak louder than words. Because at every other competition, the head coach was there with their senior national athlete. That was Luxembourg. Slovenia took it a step further. Slovenia took it a step further. She wasn't sending anybody with me for this competition. No coach at all. And again, I'm new to the game. I didn't get my novice years, my junior years to travel internationally and to feel what that's like, to season me up. I didn't get that. So now I'm jumping into this alone. And Slovenia, she says she's not sending anybody with me. I'm going to be doing this traveling at this international meet by myself with no assistant coach, because the gym needed those coaches more than I needed the coaches. That was what I was told. So again, not having much confidence and not having a voice to say, what are you talking about? It doesn't even make sense. Who's going to pull my board? Who's going to adjust my bars? They're different equipment. It was something that I couldn't even speak of, because it was just so unheard of that I'm going to this international competition on my own. She reassures me and says, I have a friend down there that is from Canada. He's going with his athlete, and he's going to be the one that will move your bars, adjust the board, fix your vault. He'll be there to do that for you, so you don't have to worry about this. So I pack my bags. I'm heading to this international competition, confused, scared, terrified. This would have been my first time ever traveling for 8, 9, 10, 12-hour flight, completely on my own, because my parents did not come to this. Sitting on a plane, going into a foreign country where I couldn't speak the language, all on my own. So I'm sitting on this plane, just heading over there, and I'm just breathing, I'm praying, I'm trying to make sense of what's really happening with me. And then it happens. This is how Brittany dies. This plane starts going completely out of whack. Boom! That's an air bubble. That's what we all start with. Everybody in the plane wakes up. We don't know what's going on. What the heck? Woo! And then now the plane just starts going crazy like this, At first, the flight attendants, everyone, it's okay. It happens from time to time. Sometimes these things last 10, 15 minutes. 30 minutes later, it's getting worse. Communication. So flight attendants, when you're terrified and this is your full-time job, please don't show it, because we feel that. Flight attendants now are starting to panic, because this is happening a lot worse than they've ever felt in their life, and has gone past the 15-minute mark. This plane is going this way, is going that way, it's bumping. All of a sudden the captain comes on board. Hey guys, we're trying to go lower, we're trying to go higher. We're actually not sure why this is happening. We must just be in a bubble, just sit tight, hopefully we can get through this. It gets worse. An hour in now. It's absolutely uncontrollable. That's the plane going back and forth, dropping like this. Now the passengers are starting to panic. Once one person starts to panic, hell is broken loose. Every time the plane drops 3 or 4 feet, sounds start happening, screams start happening. The food, because back in the day, before COVID, they could serve food on these planes. All of the food starts falling onto the floor. All the dishes, all the food, everything is just falling out, because this plane is just shaking so bad. You hear the crashing, the clacking, this. Flight attendants are sprinting through the alleyways trying to pick up all the food that has fallen from the kitchen. At some point, the captain comes on and says, flight attendants, please take your seat, leave it alone. We need you to, and so now panic is really starting to happen. People are bent over, people are screaming, people are crying, people are on their hands and knees, praying. People have their rosaries out. There's a man beside me, and he's crying. A woman, babies are screaming. Now we're about maybe it's an hour and a half in. This is like unheard of, and it's bad turbulence. I'm not talking about little, like, this is bad. Everyone knew life was about to end, and of course I was already terrified going onto this flight because it's my first time traveling internationally to a country with a language I can't even speak. I'm completely by myself on a flight for 9 to 10 hours, and this is what the Lord has given me. So now people are crying, people are in the position ready for death, the death position. People are saying their rosary, people are screaming. The flight attendants are like trembling with their little seatbelts on in the corner because they can't do anything. And I'm terrified. I'm shitting bricks. But I was in the center, and there's a man beside me that was just screaming, and there's a woman beside me that was crying, trying to hold a rosary. And every time we went up, their hands would go up, and it would just honestly make the situation worse. In my fear, in my trembling, I grabbed both of their hands. I looked at the man, and I said, "It's going to be okay. Take a deep breath. Breathe with me. We're going to be okay. Breathe." I look at the woman. I say, "Hold on to my hand." And I'm holding their hands down because every time we do the big thing, their hands go up and they go crazy. I hold their hands down even through the bumps, and I ground them. I say, "We're going to make this. Calm down. You got this." Somehow it calmed them down. I don't even know where it came from because Brittany's dying inside. With a whole bunch of other things. And I think that is something else for a lot of people to pull out of this story. And I'm going to only talk about a Black experience. There's so much going on in a Black person's mind. There's so many injustices and racial discrimination and racial profiling that's happening to us on a daily basis. And yet, when we're faced with situations like this near-death experience that everyone's facing, not only are we facing that, we're facing everything else that has happened to us that day, that week, that year. So not only am I about to die, I'm about to die with that feeling of my coach can't stand me. She sent me away to this competition by myself with no assistant coach, with blah, 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 blah. All these things are sitting on my mind and heart right before I die, and I'm trying to help the two people beside me who have lost it, because everyone else on that plane lost their shit too, but I had to do something. And I need everybody to digest that for a second. What a Black person deals with on top of every other life situation that comes our way. Maybe after 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I don't even know how long that turbulence lasted for. It was horrendous. Somehow we got out of that bubble, that realm, that whatever we were in, and we were able to continue our journey. And imagine like 3-4 hours of a flight being that traumatic. But we got out of it. The spirits were with us somehow, because like the captain said, he couldn't control anything. He was trying his best. When it flipped us to the side like this, he was trying to bring it back, but even that wasn't helping anything. We landed, everybody, mostly everybody in that plane crying and in tears when we landed. Grateful that we landed safely. Now I had to navigate myself through an airport that didn't have any English signs, figure out how I was going to get to the place I was staying, and deal with all of this on my own. Now, once I get to the venue, I have to try to compete at an international competition representing my country after a scenario like this, on my own, with no coach, with no supporter, with no help. I have to go and compete in Slovenia by myself. I think that I had the same experience as a white athlete, a white gymnast who always had their coach there with them. I didn't have that. And now I have this near-death experience on my mind, on my heart, with nobody that can help support my mental capability. Because for me, a national level gymnast is 90% mental. And I didn't have any mental support. So now I'm going to try to compete after I've died. It wasn't the same day, there's obviously a couple of days in between where you have to go to practice and, test out the equipment and, they call it podium training. But I competed. I kept my cool. Nobody has ever heard this story. That coach did show up and he, fixed my bars and adjusted my vault and made sure the board was okay. I made event finals, especially I had a rock solid beam. I made event finals. I placed on beam, solid routine on floor, my bars, everything was nice and consistent. And I placed overall top 3 on some of the events. I remember they gave out not just medals, they actually gave out prizes. Like I remember I got a watch, I got a couple of things for doing a really great job and representing my country well at this competition. Now was the scary part, heading back home, getting back on that flight after an experience so traumatic. I made it home. The turbulence was definitely not like on the way there. There's one story. I will continue with more stories in my next video, representing my country, traveling internationally, and what that experience was like. With gratitude, with blessings, thank you so much for watching.